Work-life balance is the goal for many working parents, but with growing evidence of a reduction in full-time hours being worked, are people spending more time with the family out of choice or because the boss is cutting their hours? Finance company CommSec has found that the proportion of employees working more than 40 hours a week has fallen to just over 40%, and that's the lowest level in nearly 20 years. And that of people working over 60 hours a week has fallen to just over 10%, levels not seen since 1989. Professor John Buchanan is the director of the Workplace Research Centre at the University of Sydney.
It's part of a trend that's been occurring, say, over the last decade, but we've got to keep it in perspective. Working time hours for full-timers in Australia rose dramatically in the mid-1980s through to the mid-1990s. In fact, the proportion working more than 45 hours increased from about 22% to about 35% over that period. The fact that there's been a slight drop back over the recent past should not let us forget the fact that within the OECD, full-timers still work very long hours in Australia.
So Australia's reputation for hard work on the global stage remains intact despite these numbers?
Absolutely. The New Zealanders get a little trouble when we say that, because I think the Kiwis, when they're working full-time, work longer hours than Australians, but there is an Australasian problem of long hours work amongst full-timers.
So the trend to work fewer full-time hours is a result of an employer's decision rather than the worker's choice?
Look, from the research we've done in a number of sectors, there's been major job shedding in construction and manufacturing lately. These are industries which historically have very long hours. There's also been job shedding in finance. These are also industries which historically have long hours. I think the drop is because of economic circumstance. There is an interest in the population at large to have more family-friendly hours. The way people usually achieve this is by going part-time. So if you're a doctor who wants to get more time with your children, it's very hard to be a full-timer and reel your hours in. More often than not, they just move to part-time hours to get control of them.
Now, are there particular sectors or industries where cutting back full-time hours is a trend other than the ones you've mentioned?
Look, yeah, the industries which historically have very long hours are mining, construction, manufacturing, professional services and financial services. Professional services and mining are going pretty strongly at the moment, but there's been a fairly significant fall away in demand for manufacturing, for construction and for financial services. Blue-collar men, especially in construction and manufacturing, have been losing work. That's losing jobs totally, and where they do have their jobs, their hours are right down. So I think they're the sectors primarily behind these developments.
John Buchanan, thank you.
Thanks for having me.